sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
We do.
While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham!
You missed. Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
If you've always wanted to get your hands on Batman, drop into McDonald's, where Batman Returns is on a dramatic series of 32-ounce collector cups with fine, crispy Bat Disc lids straight from the movie. You can pick up a large drink in one of 6 superhero collector cups at a special price when you buy any extra value meal, because what you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar.
Batman has a problem. He's only attracted to bad girls. And the Catwoman is the perfect foil for him in that regard.
She has a great relationship with Bruce Wayne and Batman. You know, and you can't do that with, obviously, you can't do that with any other villain. She's the opposite image of Batman.
I wanted to create a female villain because most of the villains prior to that time were males. So I created Catwoman in the image of a woman for a female audience. So that way we would grab the male audience and the female audience.
Well, the key thing I always remember about her is that when she first showed up, she didn't have the costume. She didn't have any costume. She was this beautiful brunette dressed up in like a green dress or something, but nothing flamboyant or super heroine or villainous. It would be another appearance or two before she would have like the cat mask, which would be more like an actual cat head on top of her, before she would finally have the stylized look that we would come to recognize as sort of the purple and green caped version that would last for a good, I would say, 40 years of the character's comic history.
With Catwoman, the filmmakers really had to reinvent the character. You wanted to have somebody who was caught between the two worlds of Batman and the Penguin and Oswald and Bruce. So what better way to show that than a character who is somewhat in conflict with herself, who goes from being a very mousy, put-upon woman who comes back to avenge the crime that was done to her.
Selena.
That's my name, Maximilians. Don't wear it out or I'll make you buy me a new one.
The DC version of Catwoman and the TV version of Catwoman, she was much tougher, you know, openly like aggressive female from the get-go. And like all she did was throw on a costume, and to me that wasn't interesting. And just, you know, saying, okay, this is the way it was there, now I'm going to do it that way too, it was completely uninteresting to me. And I was willing to, like, you know, quote unquote lose the job. That was my take, to really start her off as like kind of a lowly secretary. You know, I love in the fact that in the film that Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't even have a close-up until like 20 minutes in the movie, that she's kind of in the background of scenes, and like you don't really see her. That I wanted that it was this, you know, this woman that starts off low and it becomes about empowerment, and it goes beyond feminism into something creepy and feminine, like something scary and dark. So I really felt like I was giving this a twist in a good way.
Hey, stud. I thought we had something together.
Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman is awesome. She was kind of slinky and kind of vampy and in a kind of campy, kind of Julie Newmar way, but still she had like a real underlying psychotic edge to her. You know, you knew at any moment she could really, you know, really go off and do somebody some real harm.
It's one of my favorite performances of anything I've been around, you know.
For the most part, I really approached it from the standpoint of the psychology of the character and this dual personality and what that meant, and everything really springing from that. Sometimes her sexuality will come out of a manipulation, sometimes it will come out of a playfulness, and sometimes it'll be very real. And we didn't exactly know where those moments were going to be. And then after a while, it just kind of took on a life of its own. And it became obvious where it had to be.
Catwoman is best described as an anti-hero because she's not a villainess in the most diabolical of senses. She's not a murderess. She's not about gaining vengeance for any particular thing. She's basically about kind of the anarchy of stealing from the man in a way.
That's the thing that's always been intriguing about this part. People come up to me now and they say, now, is she a good guy or is she a bad guy? And they're confused because it was always left very ambiguous. And I always liked that. I always liked that they just let it be that.
How could you? I'm a woman.
I'm sorry,
Second time around, I didn't have to prove myself. I mean, everybody knew that I knew what I was doing. And with Tim, it was more like, you know what to do kind of thing. You got it. The work is much more intense and engrossing than being in a rock band by tenfold. You know, when I was in a band, you know, you write songs, they're spontaneous, you have time off, you rehearse, you get them together, then you do an album. That's intense, 10 weeks of my life. When I'm composing for a film, it's an absolute total lockout. I'm not reading books, I'm not listening to music, trying to like tap into some deep, dark well that I have no idea how hard it's going to be to find water. And especially in those days, to work from noon till 2 in the morning, and just to take breaks to, you know, have some dinner and see my family for a few moments.
Batman Returns was halfway for me between doing a film score and writing music for an opera, because every scene felt like the curtains were opening up on a theatrical vignette, and I'd play the music and the characters would do their stuff. Everything was very broad, and then the curtains would close and the next scene begins. It has that feel to it, and that's really fun, even more so than the first.
The second one, he really wanted it to be kind of operatic, so there was a lot of music. It's almost wall-to-wall music from the get-go.
There was about 95 minutes of score, which is about double the average length of the film score, and almost every cue is broad and theatrical. So out of the 95 minutes, I would say 80 of those minutes are really big in some way or another, and not much coasting at all. Very often, film, you play your big scenes big, and then you coast along and stay out of the way and come up for your next big scene. In this movie, it's like one big scene after the next.
Now, pretty little.
It was 20 minutes more score than Batman 1, and with two completely new characters to write for, that's what made it fun, I think. If it was just redoing the first score, I don't think I would have been interested.
Thanks.
Tim will just talk to me in a completely gut-level way. He'll just tell me his feelings about this character, his feelings about that character. We never talk specifically, it's going to be this kind of music or that kind of music, because we've worked together so much, we know that it never ends up being what we think it's going to be. So there's no point in being specific that way. Unlike Batman 1, which really had only one primary theme for Batman, the Joker did a little bit, but not in a really broad sense. These three characters all have huge, independent, thematic pieces of material that follow them around, and they're all primary, none of them are secondary. The Penguin probably has the biggest chunk, even more than Batman, really, in terms of musically following him. It's just fun, dark, operatic, theatrical type of music, and all of his gestures are very broad, and he's the one more than anybody else that I feel every time he's speaking that he's on a stage. Like, I could picture the proscenium and the sets behind him, and he's just belting out his lines on the stage. So his music is more simple that way. It's sinister, but sinister for me is fun. And my favorite Penguin scene is when he dies.
I'll murder you momentarily. But first, I need a cool drink of ice water.
I always love the image of the monster in a pathetic sense, because that goes right back to day one with Frankenstein and all these classic monsters, and yet there in the final moments you're feeling sorry for this poor thing because he just is what he is. It goes right back to the 30s for me, and I just loved it. Catwoman's character is both more complicated and more frisky. She's not really a villain. We feel for her. And the way she becomes the Catwoman is in a way that she's victimized. So her transformation into the Catwoman, for me, was almost like a metaphor for the loss of innocence. She becomes this thing because of circumstances which she can't control. Then there's a very kind of tragic, sad part to her theme, which I bring back 4 times in the film. And that kind of represents the life that she left behind and the part of her that she doesn't seem to have any comprehension where it came from.
It's the so-called normal guys who always let you down. Sickos never scare me. At least they're committed.
The Catwoman, when she becomes the Catwoman, is my favorite theme for her. It's my favorite part of it. It's scored almost like a silent movie in a way. She's essentially destroying her apartment, and in the process this big piece of music is playing over it and not necessarily catching her action in a very scory way, but playing more from inside her head.
As we were working on it and he was showing me it, I was going, I don't know. But then after we recorded it, it's like, yeah, that's really great. This the high screeching motif with the high strings, harmonics. It ended up being chilling to me.
In this scene, Batman is going to get knocked off a roof, he lands, he's out of breath, and the Catwoman is going to toy with him a little bit. So I start out a little bit of the Batman theme, and then that will make its way into a bit of